So I am sitting on my front porch, 5-acre farm, country lands, big American flag out front, Confederate flag next to it, wind is blowing nice, I got my sweet tea. Everything is right in the world. My neighbor Earl drives by and waves. I wave back. Earl knows wood too. We have a lot in common. I am on Craigslist looking at wood. Now I know wood. I have always known wood. My daddy knew wood. His daddy knew wood. I get morning wood looking at wood in the morning. 3 generations of wood knowledge flowing through my veins like sap through a healthy maple, which I also know. I find a listing. Guy is selling a cord of firewood. The listing says, and I am reading this word for word, best wood in the state, premium hardwood. This is not regular wood. I know wood better than anyone. My grandfather was a tree. $10 a bundle. Photo is blurry. I call him up. He answers immediately. Before I can speak he says, "You are calling about the wood." I say, "I am." He says, "Good, because I have the best wood. I have been in wood my whole life. I grew up in wood. I breathe wood. I dream about wood." Other guys selling wood on Craigslist do not know what I know. I have forgotten more about wood than most men will ever learn. I said, "That is quite an introduction. What kind of wood is it?" He pulls down his pants. I say, "Not that kind. Put those away. We are on the phone." He says, "It is wood, the best kind, my kind of wood." I say, "Pull up the pants." "Sir, I can hear the pants. I understand it is wood. What species? Oak, hickory, ash. What are we working with here? I am a man with options." He says, "It is a very specific type of wood that only I know about. A premium wood. A grandfather wood. My family has harvested this wood for generations." I said, "What is it called?" He said, "The brown kind." I said, "The brown kind. The brown kind. Sir, every wood on this earth is the brown kind. A golden retriever is the brown kind." That is not information. He said, "Not all brown kinds are created equal. Mine is the best brown kind. I would stake my life on this brown kind." I said, "What tree did it come from?" He said, "A tall one. Very tall. Tallest tree I ever saw." That is how you know it is premium. I drove 45 minutes. 45 minutes in my truck past 3 Walmarts and a Cracker Barrel I did not stop at, which took every ounce of strength I have. It was aspen. You cannot burn aspen. Aspen burns like a wet napkin. Aspen is what you plant when you want something pretty to look at while your real wood burns. I have never been so personally offended by a tree. I told him, "This is aspen." He said, "I know what aspen looks like. I have studied aspen. This is not that." I said, "Then you know this is aspen." He said, "This is not aspen because it says oak tree in my Craigslist posting." I typed it myself. I am very confident in my typing. I had to sit down. I sat down in his field. The ground was wet. I did not care. At this point his 2-year-old son toddles out of the house, walks right up to the stack of wood, puts his little hand on the bark, looks up at me, says, "Aspen." I looked at the child. I looked at the man. I said, "Your 2-year-old knows." He said, "He does not know. He just learned to talk. He says random words. Last week he called the refrigerator a giraffe." The child patted the wood again, said, "Aspen," very clearly, then went back inside. I said, "The listing says what you typed. You typed oak tree." The tree did not type oak tree. The tree is aspen. The tree knows what it is. Your 2-year-old knows what it is. You do not. He said, "It burns though." I said, "Everything burns. My ex-wife's car burned. I do not sell that as firewood. That is not the bar." He said, "I burned some last night. It was great." I said, "How long did it burn?" He thought about it for a long time, a concerning amount of time. He said, "Not super long." I said, "Because it is aspen." He said, "I think you might be thinking of a different aspen." I stood in this man's wet field for 45 more minutes. I drew him a diagram of 12 common hardwoods and their bark patterns on the back of a Cracker Barrel receipt I had in my pocket from the last time I was stronger than today. He studied the diagram. He pointed at the aspen drawing. He said, "See, that one looks different from mine." His was identical, down to the number of leaves I drew. I drove home. I do not have wood. I have a diagram, and wet pants, and a spiritual injury I do not know how to explain to my wife. I am going back on Craigslist tomorrow. Earl says he knows a guy. I told Earl the last guy also knew a guy. Earl said his guy actually knows wood. I said, "Earl, that is what the last guy said too." Earl nodded. We stood there for a while. 2 men, no wood. Pray for us.